Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Interfaith Roundtable. I'm Mark Perman. I serve as the cantor and the rabbi at Be'er Chaim congregation in Cumberland. So the Interfaith Roundtable is just an opportunity to look at various traditions and practices within different faiths, how different religions see the world, how religion can be relevant and sometimes, unfortunately, irrelevant, and just giving us a chance to explore where different faiths and traditions can take us as far as perhaps being a source of improvement and repair to a broken world. So for this particular program, and we thank Melanie for inviting us back here on FSU TV3, Kenneth Watkins was brought up in the Church of Christ, otherwise known as, do I say this, Kojic? Did I say that right?
Kojic.
Kojic, all right.
Church of God in Christ.
Of course, I'm sorry. The oldest of five, he is a self-taught keyboardist and a proud father, grandfather of five. Wow, he was born in Pittsburgh, but was reared and educated in West Virginia. And in April of '99, Kenneth married the former Miss Shannon M. Crawley. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did I say that right? See,
Perfect.
I am prepared. Together they founded and directed choirs, also founded their own gospel ministry. And in 2005, they were ordained by the Anchor Bay Evangelistic Association, where they founded and still currently pastor. So welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Happy to have you.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your ministry and what brought you to do this kind of work. For me, it was a calling, and we ministers, rabbis, teachers, imams, talk about religious and spiritual callings. So tell us about yours.
Pretty much, I felt like as a young man, I was called. We started off many years ago in music. My mother played when she was in high school, and I think the gift of me learning how to play the keyboards fell on me. I did talent shows when I was young. We were always, from the time I was born, we always went to church, and just to learn more about learning more about God, our faith in Him and God. And so as I got older, we just started. I met my beautiful wife. Amen.
She's beautiful.
Yeah. She's a graduate too at FSU.
Yeah.
Yes, when I met her.
That's how I got here.
Yes, I started off as the minister of music at Ebenezer Baptist Church, Bishop McIntyre, his wife, Early McIntyre, which she's going on to be in heaven right now. But they traveled for almost 23 years back one way from Washington, D.C. And so that inspired me to see someone that had a lot of faith. They taught us, how to be faithful and little things. And so I was a minister of music. We went on and the choir grew. We got really, our name really got out there in our community, but it wasn't really about us. We just really wanted to be able to change lives, to inspire, people in our community. Cumberland, this whole community is very important to us. As we, was with our former church for about 15 years. In 2005, we launched Souls One Outreach Ministries. And then we were blessed to get a grant to teach kids how to play instruments. We taught them how to play instruments in the arts, school, playing keyboards and drums, singing, that type of thing.
Dance.
Right.
We blessed about 200 kids.
Wow.
Wow.
Shannon, your story, what brought you to ministry? You both have a background in music that kind of segued into that. And I can relate to that, having been a cantor and sort of a music minister, and then finding my way to the rabbinate. So that pathway from music to spirituality to ministry. So Shannon, talk a little bit about that for you.
Very similar. I was also raised in the church. While he was raised as Church of God in Christ, I was raised Baptist. And I kind of had a variety, Heinz 57 variety, because my father's side of the family.
You catch it?
Yeah. my father's side of the family is Catholic. I was raised Baptist. And the reason why I say that is because my parents had split when I was very young, was like 18 months old. So she was Baptist, he was Catholic. For 5 years, I went to a private Lutheran school.
Wow.
So that's why I said all the different, because I had a wide background. But regardless of what age I was at any given point in my life, I was on some sort of choir, very active in my church, but also on the choir at school. And a lot of times I was doing both at the same time. That did not stop or slow down once I went to college, was on a choir in college. Sometimes it was for credit, which was a different type of music maybe that I was used to, which was amazing. And then also was sometimes voluntarily. Like for instance, when I graduated high school, I was in the choral society, which was for credit. And it exposed me to all different types of music. I even sang as part of an opera and productions and that kind of thing. Didn't know I could do that.
Wow.
I was always singing with choirs growing up. And then when I came to Frostburg State, I transferred. I was part of the gospel choir, which was just an extracurricular activity. So to tell you a little bit about my background, I met my husband as a student at Frostburg State. After I transferred from my first college, I was on the choir, and we had all singers and no one to play. And he was someone who had played years prior to the choir coming back together, which was the year that I came. And someone said, well, let's see if he's still interested. And long story short, he accepted to play for it again with our group. And that's how we met. He was our musician for our choir when I was a student at Frostburg State. So incidentally, when I graduated from Frostburg State, I stayed in the area, obviously. That was in the early 90s. And we got married in 99. And so, like I said, 21 years married. Never went back to my hometown. I've always been a Maryland resident, just from Baltimore, my hometown. But now, of course, we've created a life here. And our ministry started, like he said, he was a musician at the church he was attending at the time. So I was there for about 10 of those 15 years by the time I caught up. And he actually supported me as a soloist. And when we first met, so he kind of was my manager. So I kind of married my manager because as a result of
Is that a conflict of interest? No,
no, it was perfect because we were always together. But that's something that brought us together. Like you're saying, we have the similar backgrounds. And so when I did a solo project, we wanted to sound the same with our backgrounds and the people that came on board. So we decided to form a group. Instead of saying Shannon and Kenny and whoever was with us, I came up with the name Souls One. And as Souls One Ministries, we traveled and sang for about 4.5, maybe 5 years. We even got to go as far as Zurich, Switzerland and do music. And we got to travel the Tri-Towns area doing weddings, funeral services. We sang for Canal Fest and Apple Harvest or Blossom or whatever it's called. We've just been all over the place. And then we felt with the large group that always followed us that people were saying, you guys should pastor. You have a church. You just keep it, you have a following everywhere you go. People support you. You just need a building. So we thought at first it was kind of funny, but then there was more than one person saying it everywhere we went. And we kind of felt the call of God, like you were saying, a calling. We knew that the music ministry was our calling because we were both raised that way. But we knew that when so many people encouraged us to do more of a concrete ministry, we didn't travel as much. We stopped singing as much. We still sing all the time, but it's a difference between having a traveling singing ministry than pastoring. So
in fact, I want to tell Melanie, our producer, that I didn't think of it, but do you have little tracks of music that we could, when we actually put the show on the air, that we can intersperse?
Yes.
Oh yeah, because your choirs are beautiful. The way the kids sing,
we have recorded several projects since we have started our music ministry, and so we would be glad to share that with you. We it's done on a local level, local studio, but it opened many doors for us. And like I said, it was from my solo project, which turned into a group that traveled, that we created Souls One Outreach Ministries, which started, like he said, with the the children and teaching them and everything. And it just became a full-blown ministry. We wanted to do everything right. So the Lord blessed us to be ordained. We got ordained together, and we still do everything together. We perform weddings together. We do all the counseling together. We do even dedication of babies together. I mean, literally, we're both standing there and we do it all together. And that's how it's been ever since. And now our ministry for the outreach part of it is 15 years old this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a power in ministry and in reaching out to people who are unchurched, because it seems like people need those religious values today and need those spiritual values. And one thing about your church that I noticed, just having been there briefly and participated in various events, is that it's spiritually alive, and you don't walk in and feel like, oh my God, 40, put up with this for an hour. It just resonates with energy. So is it sort of your people who come all the time, or outsiders welcome? And how diverse is the community?
It's that's the best word I could use to describe it. It's very diverse.
Yeah.
We have from the youngest child that we have in our ministry, who was just born in March, I guess, up to our oldest member, which is his mom, my mother-in-law, 85.
Wow.
And so it's diverse as far as age. We do have and it's multicultural, and I don't think it would be bad for me to say this, but we actually have biracial couples, and children that attend, which is important, because some people.
Why would that be bad?
Well, because, when you start talking about races and diversity and different things, it's not that it's bad, but it's just, I'm not trying to classify or label, because we're all one in God. Okay.
Yes.
But I'm saying that
You're
to set the atmosphere that when someone comes to our church, they won't have to feel outnumbered, because there's a little bit of everything in a good way. Very diverse is what we can say. And everyone is equal, has equal participation, even our leadership staff, don't all look like us. Okay. I'll just put it that way. And we love it that way. And that was what.
My staff all looks like me, actually.
Well,
which is kind of
but you know
scary.
what? But it's not scary. You're so funny. But, and that's just the way it turned out. When we started singing, we had people from our group where it was just the three of us, the two of us and one other person. We ended up having about 10 or 12 singers at one time, not all at one time, but then we even had as much as a 12-piece band. And it just grew. It seemed like overnight. We just, between people that we knew, it seemed like they all joined and they all had some different part to play. And we just believe that that's what it's going to be like. God's going to use us all. But when we get to heaven, it's not going to be segregated. It's not going to be separated. And that's what we wish people would know and would act like now. But hopefully when they come to our ministry, they get a glimpse of it.
So let me tell everybody, we're with Bishop Kenneth Watkins and Shannon Watkins here on FSU TV3 at Frostburg State University. And the church is called, and I have it right here. Wait, I have it. It's called Souls One Outreach Ministries, now Cathedral. So Kenny, a little bit about your background. You're a bishop, but you're not wearing one of those hats that we see in the Catholic Church. So how did you get elevated from minister to bishop, and is there then cardinal after it, or how does it work?
Archbishop.
Yes,
Archbishop.
Well, really, it was amazing experience for me. It really was everything that we accomplished together, particularly that I was blessed to accomplish in our community, for the connections and relationships that I had in the community. My former pastor, now he's Bishop John B. McIntyre Sr., they just seen something great in me. There's some things that being able to bring people together, that's one of the things that I've really been blessed, and I guess have anointing on my life to be able to bring all people together from different backgrounds. And so he just recommended me to his council. They took me through the whole process in 2015. And I was elevated in October of 2015. And, I do have my bishop gear and all the different, I have everything that I have. I'll have to show you.
From top to bottom.
Top to bottom.
Wow.
It's a lot.
It was very, very, wow. The whole city came out, the mayor came out, the police department, everyone was there. We had a nice banquet. We had a nice ceremony at our church. All the pastors came from Hagerstown, Washington, D.C., Baltimore. All the bishops came. And so it was really a historical event. And I'll make sure that you get a DVD too.
Yeah, definitely.
Of it that we'll show you. And yes, it was a great event. One of the things I always pray for too, going back what Shannon mentioned a few minutes ago, that I always pray for a multicultural ministry, that people wouldn't see the outward appearance, but they would see a heart. And I believe that's what our prayer is, that for us to be in this community, we wouldn't be labeled as a African American church or ministry. That we just wanted to be a ministry for all people to come. They can be blessed with lives. Once they come in, they feel the anointing, the spirit of God there, that they won't go out the same way they come in.
Yeah. I mean, you see such, I worry about the fact that our culture, as it seems to decline, it seems to me part of it is because religion has declined. There's not a level of connection to something larger than materialism and the seeking of things, of property, of greater and greater. Our whole society kind of pushes a more fancier car, fancier jewelry, fancier life, and seems to sometimes ignore the greater and larger values. And then the kids who are raised in that don't seem to have the values that you're kind of transmitting. So what do you think can help some of those communities where they're lacking that religious kind of center and focus, and they seem to be drifting and falling into, whether it's crime or divisiveness or riot, whatever it might be? How can we help center our children and our young people around religion so there can be a stronger sense of values, so they can be raised with a better sense of values and make a better contribution to the world?
Well, one of the things is that, the young people today, they got more choices. We really didn't have choices. Our parents pretty much told us that we had to go to church,
They put the fear of God in
they
you.
put the fear. Yeah, you can go out.
That's good.
Sunday morning. It was tradition.
Or else.
But I believe today that as I'm growing in grace and older, I think God's putting different young men in my life as a mentor. I think it's very important that relationships is very important. I think that we're using social media because a lot of young people is not going to come to church. You're going to have to reach them through social media. So I think even though that the COVID-19 what happened has been devastating, I think for Shannon and I, it's been a blessing on the flip side of that, because we're able to reach more people. We're getting, I'm going to do I was talking to my wife here about doing a youth. We had a Generation Arise, one of our youth leaders a couple years ago, but I think we're going to go ahead and do something like a youth program, even on Facebook. We have a couple youth ministers that we know, because the youth can draw the youth. And so we're going to try to do something on that caliber probably in the next month or two to get the word out, just to have some youth programs, youth services, if I could say that, if that's put it out there for Facebook, but so they can be able to join. We're going to get all the young people to come and let them know that, there's young men that are there's 18 to 25. There's young people out there that really love God and really want to make a difference. And and I know people personally that they're living a life as a young person that they can reach the other young people. Yes.
And how, for example,
add to that. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to add to that.
Go ahead.
It's really how we started in the first place. When the Lord compelled us, after we did so many years of singing, to start an outreach. The whole idea behind the outreach was the children. He continued and told you about how we started with getting a grant. It was a Cumberland block grant that we received from the city, and we were able to purchase instruments. And so that was geared towards the children. And of course, a prerequisite for us getting it was that it had to center or focus around a certain population. And of course, it was needed in the side of town that we're in, which we're still in. But that is kind of what drew the people to our congregation. It was that we were doing something for the children because we were doing it as an after school program, and we were giving them something positive to do after school rather than finding other things to do that might not be as positive, or they might even end up in trouble. So our what we learned from that is that if it's like what he was saying, if you have the children encouraged and excited about looking for something, then that's going to bring mom and dad, because they're going to want to see what they're doing and what they're so excited about. And then before you know it, the entire family is coming. And then they're not just coming just to see their kids minister as part of a service or an event. They're going to start hopefully coming regularly. So it kind of starts with, like he said, the kids will draw other kids, but then eventually their family too, because there are a lot of parents that just drop their kids off. So we wanted something that would change that, because if you look at a congregation, what is it comprised of? Mostly there's individual families that make up the congregation. So just like what your initial question was, well, what are we doing, or what do we think about it, you know, as a community? It's to reach the entire family. And so in that, we have to provide not just things for the children, like what he was saying, which I think is very key, because they're our next generation. They're of now, but they're also of our next generation. It's to be able to offer things for the parents too. What about the homes that have single parents, or the homes that the parents are struggling in their marriage? So we have sort of like a full service ministry, because we also provide counseling. You know, I do different things just for the women. And then we have, again, the opportunity for our children, even though we don't have the after school program in force, we're still doing different things. Like he said, Generation Arise. We have Sunday school. We have Bible study, and which is for all ages. And since we've not been able to do everything in person these last few months, we have a conference line, just a phone call line that people can call in at designated times. We've gone live, like he mentioned, Facebook. I think you mentioned this would be on Facebook. You know, we have a page. Really, it's just my page where we go live 3 times a week. You know, and so the idea of keeping interest is not that something like COVID shut us down. Like, there's been so many ministries that have suffered because of this, but in essence, we've gotten even more followers because people that wouldn't normally be in our church, because maybe they don't live in the area, they're getting an opportunity to connect with us, either when we're on, or they just watch the replay, or whatever the case is. And so it's about us being active and consistent, and eventually it catches on, and then word of mouth, and then, you know, it builds from there. So
what about within like a troubled community that we have in Cumberland? Unfortunately, a lot of drug addiction, a lot of broken families, but not only that, what I see are parents or single parents who themselves, you can tell, have some drug issues, and yet they're raising children and might not have the resources or the emotional, physical support to take care of their own needs. Are you able to go into some of these broken segments of our community and try to inspire them with, it seems to me, if you can give people a sense of God and spirituality, maybe it's simplistic, it'll steer them away from certain other methods that people, self-medication that people use to kind of feel better. Can you try to substitute that for that? You know,
well, we have an outreach evangelistic team that goes out, you know, every so often, especially before COVID. You know, we would go out. You know, we did it on Sunday mornings before services. Right on Sunday morning, I had an idea that before Sunday morning, let's go out in our community, you know, and pass out flyers. Tracts and share. Sometimes we have prayed for people right on the streets. And we have invited families. The families have came. We have a great Sunday school. You know, we have as much as from 10 to 25 kids in our Sunday school. You know, and we have dance ministries. We show when the families come, these broken families. Particularly, we're big on single mothers that have children, and sometimes they don't have transportation and different things like that. So we try to
provide that too. We have 2 vans.
Yeah, we have 2 vans to do that. Also, we have a college ministry where we go and pick up the children, the young people from the college, give them a home. We feed them, you know, while they're away from home. So we try to tap into all the different entities there too in our community, that we can tap into the broken homes, those that have drug addictions and things, or maybe going through that. We We also, have a great relationship with City Reach and some of the other ministries that focus on that. And what we don't have, we have other people, other ministries that in our city that we can connect the young people to, to make sure that they have a better life and can get clean. And, and then those type of things, we have access to people, helping people get jobs. And so we try to tap in and have resources. I think the main thing we're trying to get out to you is that we try to make sure we have resources. And I'm always tapping into our city and what's available for other ministries and then what we can offer from Souls One Outreach Cathedral as well.
Kenneth Watkins, his wife Shannon Watkins, co-ministers of the Souls One Outreach Ministries, now called Cathedral. We're on FSU TV3 out of Frostburg State University. Yeah. Just want to connect people with who you are. And before I forget, how can people support what you're doing? Do you accept donations, or how can people support you?
Yeah, I'll let Shannon share that with you.
Shannon, go ahead with what you were saying.
Before that, I was just going to say that, we also partner with other agencies and ministries, just to kind of piggyback. To give an example, we have, during the summer months, once a month after church, go and actually feed the hungry. And we partner with places like KFC, Allstate, and other churches. And we, as a collaborative effort, we're actually outside inviting people to come and get a meal. But in that case, we also are giving out information where you'll see people, standing around with the people that have answered, our invitation, and they're actually getting prayer, and they're getting fed spiritually and naturally. And some people have come to our church as a result of that as well. And so when people see that you're doing something like that, they become interested. And then the way they can connect with us is we are on Facebook. We each have our own pages, and we also have a page, Souls One Outreach Cathedral, on Facebook as well. But as far as donations, we do have a website. It's www.soulswonoc.com. So it's SOULSWONOC.com. And they can make donations that way. There's a tab there for donations. But then we have people that also send us donations to our P.O. Box, which is P.O. Box 2023, which is right in Cumberland, 21502. And we also have ways to take credit and debit, if they want to let me know that information, or when they see me in person, they can donate that way as well. But then we also are connected to Zelle, PayPal. I have an email address. Any way people want to get a hold of us, or they can private message me on Facebook. They've even dropped it off. Sometimes we're in service, and someone on their way or passing through will literally peep their head in and hand something to someone to come give to us.
I wish that happened to me. Yeah.
Right? More than once. Well, and sometimes when we go live before service, and before COVID, where we were doing the live broadcast like every week, he would, a few minutes before service, or as he was driving to service, he would make mention what we had going on and this kind of thing, and people were listening, and so on their way to church they would stop by because they had just heard him do a broadcast and things. So it's been kind of fun. But so there's multiple ways they can donate if they want to.
How are you doing the music thing right now? Because anytime you try to put more than one or two singers up on Zoom, you get all this feedback. And so how are you handling some of that singing and the joy of that via I think, Zoom, Facebook Live? Yeah.
Right. One of the things, we're getting ready to do our conference on this Saturday. It's our prayer, the ninth year prayer conference. And so we did a trial run on Tuesday night, I think it's Tuesday evening. And so what we're going to do is everyone that are speaking, the 4 people speaking, they're going to be on Zoom, and everyone else is going to be locked out. It's going to be just Facebook Live. You'll be able to come in and view it, but they won't have no interference with the ones that are locked in on Zoom. So that's the way to do it that way. Yeah. Another thing is, if someone sent a donation, make sure they send to SOULSWON. Everybody puts ONE, but it's WON. Yes. So I think our website. But but that's the way we're going to do it here. We're getting more educated because with Zoom and how to do some things too. And Shannon and I too. We do a prayer line call in, and we just have we call different people on the cell phone, and let them speak, put it on a speaker, let them minister for 2 or 3 minutes. We're giving different speakers, but we're going to get it where we can get it locked down where they can see the picture.
With another thing that strikes me with all the divisiveness in the world now, sometimes we hear black folks over here, white folks over here, Jews over here, Christians over here, Muslim, and sometimes people act as though every group acts monolithically, like every black person is going to feel the same, every Jew is going to feel the same. How do you bring, a sense of universality, like you said before, that there's one God, or you have a relationship to Jesus, and whatever your outward look might be, our souls are connected. So is that a message you're trying to bring out there of universality of the spirit?
Well, I believe we're in this with the Floyd situation, everything's happening, and Black Lives Matter. But I believe that when you really walk in faith, it's not only Black Lives Matter, but all lives matter. And I'm really.
Oh, you're not supposed to say that. It's somewhat controversial.
Well, no, but I believe
it's
that.
all controversial, no matter what you say.
When you're in Christ, and the position that we hold, at the end of the day, it's all lives matter as well.
Well, and the reason why we say all lives, we're not even saying it to go along with the Black Lives Matter and the cliches and what's out there, and the whole reason why there's been such an uproar is because if you're looking at it scripturally based, God made all lives.
Yes.
So we're not saying all lives matter because that's what they're saying and that's what's on a poster and that's what's on a sign that someone's holding. Yeah. It's because before all of that, he created us and he created us all, and we're all connected and in one way probably related, not probably, we're all related anyway, because we all started the same way and and one God created us. So when we say that, it is to make sure everyone feels as equally as important, because the scripture says that we are all fearfully and wonderfully made. God does not discriminate based on gender or race or anything, because when he created us, we were made in his image. So it doesn't really make sense. Now we can't change history and we can't erase some horrible things that have happened. But we can move past it and not repeat it and and join forces. Just like we're saying that we have a multicultural ministry. Well, to show people that that's what we've been showcasing. That's what we put in front there, and even when we invite people to our special events, it's not just one-sided or just one type of race or even denomination, honestly, when God decides to return, he's not going to, like you said, line up the blacks, the whites, the Jews, we're all going to be held accountable together in the same way. No big I's, no little U's, and the only reason why someone says, well, all lives matter, because they don't want to hear Black Lives Matter, because they don't want to hear, the repetitive, or be reminded, I should say, of the history that us as a race has had to endure. But the reason why they come up with that is they say, well, all lives can't matter until Black lives do, because it seems as if one race is the one that's always discriminated against. But actually, that's not true. There's been a lot of discrimination among all races in one way or the other.
And religions, we've had a little bit in the Jewish world.
That's what I was going to say as well.
I think right now it's a point in time that we're focusing on because of everything that's happened, so in that entity that, I do support it to that degree that I don't want to see anyone, especially our young Black men and women, being murdered and the different things with the departments over the United States. But one of the things that Shannon, I want to get back to the question you asked is that
sure.
It's always about relationships that we can learn from one another. So that's why we have what we call share time at Souls on Outreach Cathedral. We take about 15 minutes of our services, and we invite different people in, people from the prisons, different so they can see our children, see them performing in the performing arts, how they're
beautiful.
young Black children are making good grades in school. They can see our kids achieving. But we can learn. They can learn from us what we can learn from you guys or anyone that we're inviting. We learn from each other.
Yeah.
Relationships is the whole key of changing this world around.
Yeah,
That's really important for us. You can learn.
So,
it might be like the Titans. I forget that there was a movie out. Remember the Titans? How when the two football teams they came, the whites, the football team, the blacks, they all came together, and he took them out of their environment, and they trained for about maybe a month or so, and they got to learn one another. They got to go to each other's homes and things. I believe that's what we need more of today. We can learn from
right. So, and how do you counter sometimes the message that's in the culture? Sometimes whether it's the rap music or hip hop or whatever, sometimes sends different messages about how, what's manhood and how men should treat women. And, it's a whole different message. And if those kids get that message first before they get yours, you're in trouble. How do you counter some of that negativity and spread the positive words?
Yeah, I mean, we have Christian hip hop. We have different types of music that we present to our kids. That they don't have to listen to. Negative rap, or negative music out there. We go with the world. Some of these young people do, but present out there. But I think the message is very important. The words are very important. A lot of our kids, they listen to. I think we all have a responsibility. In the music industry, as well as pastors and everybody that holds the title. I think we should be held accountable of what the music we put out there. But all the same time, I think it's very important for us to, as leaders show, have diversity, and let them know that, hey, you know what, we know our kids going to listen to rap. We know they're going to listen to different music, but let them know that there's good Christian artists out there, and rappers and praise and worshipers that are putting great music out there. And if you listen to our program, we have a lot of upbeat music. We come and we bring it, and we want to let people know that we got a higher power. There, God is still alive. And you can have a great time.
I mean, you guys managed to combine the whole thing of religion and spirituality. And unfortunately, around this area in Cumberland too, we have a lot of churches that are dying. Churches are closing, churches are merging. So is there a way, do you feel like you have a message to offer that could help reinvigorate some of the places that seem to have lost people? And, you talk about all souls. So what do you do about the lost souls who have said to religion and faith and spirituality, and I don't need that. That's not relevant to me anymore.
I think it's like the Sister Act, movie when Whoopi went in, she went into a whole different atmosphere, and they were just so traditional, and you should go away. And she just kept on working at it and bringing change. And it wasn't so much that they had to change everything, but just bring some life into it. So I think those young people in the choir that she did in that movie, it generated. I mean, their Pope came out, their bishops, everyone came out, and they show what little, if you just have a little bit of faith, mustard seed faith, you can move mountains. So I believe that sometimes we get in complacency, that we have to do it the same way all the time. And so if you're doing it the same way, you get the same results. As my wife say all the time, we got to change. And so not to change what the word says, but change some different ways that we can have our services, And we go by we call it the Holy Spirit. Sometimes we preach first, sometimes we bring the word, we be led. Sometimes it only takes one song. Don't have to be a message every Sunday, so it might be a praise and worship song, might be just the word go forth, so sometimes we just get in that same thing, opening, prayer, scripture, and people get to a point that they know what you're going to do, they time us. But see, we flip it around. See?
Right.
You think we're going to bring the word a certain time, and
Right.
you know,
So they show up late.
They show up late.
Well, in the Jewish world too, you know, they just come to eat.
Yeah.
So they'll show up 15 minutes before so they can have a little bite afterwards.
And hey, and you bring up a good point. We have, and he's mentioned it before, we have, before COVID, we were able to pretty much have a meal almost after every service, on Sunday anyway.
I know.
And,
that's missing.
And it's, that's missing. But unfortunately, and I don't know if it's really unfortunate, but that drew people too. You know, honestly, there's some people
That's right.
That might have been the only meal that they got. But in our mind, it wasn't so much that we have people who really didn't have food. I mean, it's everywhere, and we know it was in our congregation as well. But the reason why we would offer food after Sunday service, or offer even something a little light after Tuesday night Bible study, was so that they didn't have to go home after they got off work and go eat, because, you know, after you've eaten, once you've had a long, hard day, you're not going to come back out usually. You know,
that's
and so
right.
if we make it easy for them to also have a meal when they come to Bible study, at least Bible study. So it was kind of a way of drawing that way too. But food does draw people. You know,
God.
Hungry, and that's even been the whole problem with the schools being closed. Because in some cases, those children, that breakfast and that lunch that they received was the only meal the best meals that they were getting every day.
So let's, I don't expect this question to be answered. I throw it out because it needs to be explored. And I get questions like it all the time, you know, Rabbi or Cantor, I've done everything I'm supposed to do. I've been a good person, but yet I still ended up with this disease, or somebody in my family is suffering with this. You know, why? And it's a question that a Rabbi, Harold Kushner, wrote the whole book on why do bad things happen to good people. So when people come to you with those questions of faith, you know, where has God or Jesus been for me? If I'm going through this or that, how do you, I know we can't answer the question, but how do you deal with it? How do you explore it with people, you know?
I think, you know,
I have an answer.
She has an answer too, but I think everything is a testimony, good or bad. You know, so sometimes we're put on this earth for a certain assignment. Some, you know, like the George Floyd, you know, the tragic that happens to him. But look how it's changing the world, and the things we're taking notice. And so he didn't know that, but what happened to him tragically, but it's turning around, that maybe we can, in the long run, it can go into a positive, you know, situation here, positive for our world. You know, this was God Bless America. It started off with many years ago. You know, this is one of the greatest. United States is one of the greatest countries in the world. You know, so that's one of the things that when people come to us, you know, we said, trust in the Lord, lean not to with all that heart, and lean not to our own understanding. He said, all our ways and knowledge him, he should direct our path. So there's the path that he has for each and every one of us. So that's one thing we just try to encourage him. So we don't always understand. We share with him. We know we might not understand everything, but can you turn this in, you know, to a testimony, you know, and try to encourage them to stay strong, you know, and in their faith, you know, because sometimes you get a little wavering in your faith when bad things happen to you. But I just learned to trust in the Lord, no matter what may happen, you know. So God, I don't understand it, but I'm still going to trust you. Amen. I'm still going to trust you, and I'm going to find a way that you want me to grow through this situation, that I can tell others and encourage someone else that might go through the same thing. Amen.
Okay.
So.
Shannon?
I was just going to say, you know, God is sovereign. So pretty much what that means is he can do what he wants, when he wants, and how he wants. So the scriptures, you know, remind us that he will rain on the just as well as the unjust. You know, we're the ones seemingly doing everything right, but it's the unjust that seem to have all the money and all the doors opening and all the, or here, like you were saying, we're the ones going to church and doing everything right, but here we end up sick and losing loved ones. Why is that happening and how is that fair? But, there are plenty of examples in the Bible, which show people who went through very rough times, who were close to death, hungry, imprisoned, ridiculed, and all of those things. If you fast forward to when Jesus came, he went through all of those same things. He was ridiculed, he was betrayed, so when I look at it, I look at, when someone says, why me, then my question is, well, why not you? Because if Jesus went through all of those things with victory, on the flip side of it, on the ending of it, why do we think any different as far as when we go through something? Because there's always a lesson to learn in it. How do I know that God is a healer if I never get sick? I can't share that testimony with someone, and really say it from experience. Oh, I know how you feel. Well, no, you don't, because you haven't been through it. So
you're walking
I
those
always look
shoes,
at it as there's a lesson to learn in it. And so you have to look at it, well, okay, I don't know why I'm going through this, but God must have something better for me, or he wants to teach me something, or maybe it's for someone else that I'm going through what I'm going through. So that way, when I come out of it, I can share it with the next person. There's always a lesson to be learned. There's always character that God is building in us. And he's also making us use our faith. He's making us use our faith to get through it. So
my guests have been, go ahead. You want to say something, Ken, before we wrap up? Go ahead.
I think your gift will make room for you in this closing. John Lewis that passed away. I just thought about how many people he brought out. It wasn't like a tragic death or anything, but I was just thinking about how the work that he did, and as a civil rights leader, and how many people that came to celebrate his life. So I believe that sometimes when bad things happen to great people, how it can bring so many people together and maybe help them to be their faith, even in that tragedy, can maybe encourage their faith. Amen. And someone can say encouraging word, do a celebration of life, celebration of their life that maybe went on, that can make someone else a better person, during that period of time.
We say in the Jewish faith, with every curse, there's a blessing if you can find it. It's not easy. So my guess, go ahead.
They'll say it. It'll say it. And Deuteronomy, he talks about the blessings and the curses. I think it's Deuteronomy 28.
That's our Torah portion this week. If you look at it, that's coming up this Shabbat. Yep.
Wow.
You'll have to watch our service. Yep, on Facebook.
Confirmation. I believe in confirmation. God shows things or makes you hear things more than once. And I've been hearing and seeing Psalm 91, like at least so far this week. What is this, Thursday? Probably about 3 times. Even till I was checking my bank account balance and the change was 91 cents. And and it's funny.
That's what I have in my bank balance, 91 cents.
Like that's all you have, right? But when I see, and it's just funny, and they know, and I say that laughing, because when I see things or hear things multiple times, sometimes it's like I feel, and how the Lord deals with me, that it's a message in it, or something I'm supposed to study or look for or share to the next time. But when you look at that Psalm 91, he says that even through all the pestilence and the arrows that might be thrown, and he who dwells in the secret place shall abide under the shadow. So as long as we make sure that secret place, which is the protection of God, as long as we're dwelling there, then whatever the enemy tries to throw at us, he will not be successful.
Wonderful. My guests have been Bishop Ken Watkins and his wife Shannon, the co-ministers and leaders and music ministers of Souls One Outreach Ministries, Cathedral. So before we say goodbye, and I thank you so much for doing this with me. I hope it's been fun. Tell people quickly how they can once again get in touch with you or your church if they would like to. So go right ahead.
Well, we're located at 130 Virginia Avenue in Cumberland. So they're welcome to show up when we're there. But we also have a website, which I mentioned, which is www.souls1oc.com, which is the Souls One Outreach Cathedral. So it's SOULS WONOC. Okay. And then if someone wants to email me, it's KandSWatkins@yahoo.com. And
Say that slower.
It's Kenneth and Shannon. So KANDS.
K-E.
And.
Right, but the K-E, I heard K-A.
No,
K-E.
K&S.
Oh, God. Okay, say it again.
So it's
Sorry, I messed it up.
KANDSWATKINS@yahoo.com. And all it stands for is Kenneth and Shannon Watkins. That's all.
Gotcha.
So very easy to remember. Just spell out the A-N-D. That's all.
Wonderful.
And then if they would like to give a call, we have a private line for anyone that would like to call for ministry or for rides to church or about how they might want to donate. They can dial 301-268-6673.
Mm-hmm. Thank you both. This has been the Interfaith Roundtable. Anything else, Ken, you wanted to say?
Thank you so much.
Thanks for asking us.
Oh, my pleasure. Happy to have you and see the great work you're doing in the community. So I'm Mark Perman. This is the Interfaith Roundtable on FSU TV3. Let's thank Melanie Lombardi in the studio for putting this together. And we're going to intersperse. I'll ask you to get some music to Melanie. We'll work that out. And by the time people see this, they will get to hear some of the beautiful music and the kids' choirs and everything. Okay? Thank you. What?
Thank you. I said we'll be glad to.
Thank you so much here on FSU TV3. See you next time.
Thank
See you
you.
next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
When your way seems dark and dreary, and you feel like you are so all alone, when not a friend seems to be near, and you begin to think you just can't go on.